Okay, so after fighting with this system for over a week and a half, almost two now, I decided to completely gut it, or almost completely gut the water cabinet, and start from scratch and follow some of the advice I've gotten from the plumber I've been talking to. Thank you, Ben, and hopefully it's going to work out now. Okay, so after quite a bit of messing around with this, I decided to follow the professional's advice. Shout out to Ben, the plumber, who's helped me out quite a bit. Uh, and he suggested, one of the things he suggested, among a lot of things that he suggested, was that perhaps the filter and the UV chamber need to be after the pump. And you can see I've now done all of that in PEX. And it isn't on yet, but I've just barely got finished with this task. So we're just pressure testing at the moment. I've got it running on the outdoor cistern. So it's pulling water from the outdoor cistern, no problem. Or at least it seems to be as of now. We'll have to let it sit overnight and see what it does. And then the only thing I have left to do is to connect the this flush port on this spin down filter to a waterfall line that's right there, and that way I can open this valve here, which is on the high pressure side, and it goes down to here. Open that valve there, and that will push water back through that filter and out the waterfall, putting it back into the indoor cistern so that I can flush that filter easily. And the other thing I have to set up is to be able to just run the waterfall as well. I had it set up so that I could just run the waterfall with a valve on the last setup, and I may set that up again because it's useful to be able to do that, to just turn that on, let the pressure out of the system. If you need to prime the pump, it's a nice big flow that you can create that just drains all the pressure out. Whereas if I go to the kitchen sink and do it, or the bathroom, it doesn't relieve enough of the pressure to effectively prime the pump. So probably will do that as well. But as of right now, it seems like we're holding pressure. So far so good. We'll watch it overnight, and if it's still working in the morning, I'm gonna call it finished, and then I'll go ahead and set up the other parts of this thing that aren't critical to the actual functioning, but will help me in the long run. So hopefully I'm done here. Okay, it's the next day now after completing this project. I even completed the waterfall parts of it so that now I can actually run the waterfall and flush this filter. So I'm still pressure testing, and well, I have to admit that the pressure testing isn't going perfectly. So I had a little bit of trouble with this top fitting here, which I had in with some Teflon tape on the threads, and it leaked pretty bad. This I did not expect to leak, but it did. And I had to take it apart, make a new piece of PEX for it, and redo all those fittings. And if you might have spotted the other problem that's over here. And I had that put together to be crimped. I had sent that pipe all the way home, and it was pressed right up against the flange there. But unfortunately, when I crimped it, the crimp tool itself, I think, squeezed it out a little bit when I started to crimp it. So I had the crimp tool up too tight against that fitting when I crimped it. So it's not leaking, but it makes me nervous. I've got another one that's similar to that down here, and it's not as bad. This one did actually leak a little bit, but then it seemed to stop leaking when I went back and crimped it again. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a problem, but they both make me nervous. Fortunately, I'm in the habit of turning off the pump when I leave the house, so I will continue to do that. The other problem I had leak-wise is at the bottom of the UV canister. This one did the same thing as the top one, and I had Teflon tape on that one as well, but I took it apart and put it back on, both of them with pipe dope or pipe thread compound, trying to get it to stop leaking. Now this one at the top did stop leaking, but this one at the bottom, I don't know if we can see it. Well, it's actually only a little bit wet, you can see. So unfortunately, that one's still giving me trouble, and I will probably have to take this apart yet again, make another little piece of PEX pipe, and probably just full on replace that fitting. Now maybe I'm better off with a fitting that engages these outer threads here. I don't know, and maybe I will try to go that route. Maybe that'd be a better option, but trying to get this one to work, and these are the fittings I didn't expect to leak. So unfortunate, but not all bad news, because the system itself does seem to work. So, you know, at least proof of concept, but the rest of it's all functional. I'm not losing prime anymore. I'm on the outdoor cistern, and I have been since last night. So I'm getting prime, and this morning, I turned the pump off last night when I went to bed, and in the morning it was at, I believe it was at about 20% or 20 psi pressure when I went to bed with the pump off. This morning it was at 0. So clearly we lost all the pressure overnight. Now I didn't have the pressure tank turned on, so there wasn't a lot of pressure or a lot of volume to lose to drop that pressure. So you know, the leak isn't terrible, and I'm gonna let it go for now, because after staying up till midnight last night finishing this project, today is a day of rest. So but before I end this video, I'm just gonna give you a little tour of the system as it stands. So over here we've got the two valves. The one on the right is going to the indoor cistern, and the one on the left goes to the outdoor. This allows me to turn on and off the cisterns individually, and if I open up both valves, I can actually transfer water from the indoor cistern to the outdoor cistern just by gravity through a siphon effect. So that line then comes up to this rubber line here and goes to the first filter. And that filter then goes out to the pump. And that's where we leave off with the rubber hose. Goes through the pump up to our 5 micron filter. 5 micron filter. Then down to the inlet of the UV canister. And then you can see it's actually on, a little glow there. Then that comes down and gets pumped into the pressurized side of the system. You can see the pressure gauge there, and then that goes down and into the rest of the house. So there is also over here, T right there, you can see is for the pressure tank, and there is a valve down below you can get at through that door to turn off the pressure tank. And as you can see, that's teed into another valve that has this rubber hose on it that comes down into this line. Now this line here is teed in just before the pump. This allows me to take this hose, which is stored down here, and connect it to the line, either put it in a bucket to prime the pump, or connect it to the line that goes out to the tank on the side of the cabin, which will provide actually a little bit of pressure because that's higher. And that has this valve here, and then this T here that's teed into this line goes back to the waterfall line I just added last night, late night last night. And that allows me to open this valve, which goes to the pressurized side of the system, and then this valve, and that will run the waterfall. So if I want to prime the pump, it makes it easier. And then there's another valve here, and if I open this valve and this valve, I can do the priming. So everything is all set, everything works. I've tested all of it, and I'm not losing prime, so I think we're in pretty good shape. Unfortunately, I still have that one leak to deal with and possibly change or reconnect those elbows there as well, because they got installed a little bit incorrectly. So there's only a couple things left to do, and one of them is that there's no outlet in this cabinet except for the 24 volt DC that runs the pump. So that won't help me with this thing. So right now I just have it, plugged into an outlet over by the planter. I do also have an outlet up high over here, and that is probably the one I'm going to go to. I haven't decided. For now, I'm going to leave it the way it is and just let the cord hang because I'm tired. But if you're sort of eagle-eyed and sharp, you might have also noticed the other problem that I have, and that is that there's no way to change that bulb given the way that this canister is mounted. So I would have to take apart the plumbing to tilt out or remove this canister, excuse me, remove this canister in order to change the bulb. Now, what I'm likely going to do is put a hole, because this is a shelf on the other side, and if I drill down, hopefully I can get through with a hole saw, and it'll allow me to just slide the bulb up and into the bathroom. It might end up making it a two-person job, hopefully not, but that is the plan right now. Otherwise, I'll have to come up with some method of actually tilting that out without disconnecting the plumbing. And that was possible before when it was on the low pressure side, it was on a rubber hose. But now that it's on the high pressure side and I've got everything done up in PEX, it's not going to be possible to really move that in order to change that bulb. Now, fortunately, don't have to deal with it for a year. So I don't know if I'll go ahead and try to make that solution happen right now, or if I'll wait until I actually have to change the bulb. But for now, the only issue that needs to be immediately addressed is the leak on this fitting. And I did tighten it up a little bit more. I don't think that's going to stop it from leaking, but like I say, this isn't the one I expected to have a leak in. These threaded fittings I figured were going to be solid once I got them tight, but unfortunately, I still probably have to address that. But overall, I'm going to call it a success, because fixing a little leak is not a big deal, and fighting with this for over a week to just get it to work, that's the big victory.